just starting the recording so that we can have this. I want to welcome you to this webinar. It's Developing a Successful Partnership with Your County Government. This is a collaboration between the NACAA Administrative Skills Committee and the NACAA Board of Directors. As the Northeast Director, I've been encouraging or working with the National Board to think about trying to expand and do more webinars. And I know that the committees have been encouraged to do that as well. So I think it's a good collaboration between the National Board and the committees to help bring these educational opportunities to our members. And through the work of Dan Klaczynski, the Extension Development Council worked with Ayman Mustafa to identify and set up the webinar that we're having today. So at this time, well, first I should introduce myself. I'm Steve Hadcock. I'm the Northeast Director for NACAA, covering all of the Northeast states. And now I'd like to introduce Ayman Mustafa, who is the chair of the Administrative Skills Committee, and turn it over to him to introduce our speaker for today. So, Ayman.
Thank you, Steve. Good morning, or good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ayman Mustafa, and I'm the chair of the Administrative Skills Committee for the National Association of County Agents. It's my pleasure today to introduce our speaker for this webinar, Monica Pastor. Monica has been our County Director for Maricopa County here in Arizona for the last 5 years before she stepped down to focus on her program in ag literacy. During this time with the County Director, she has been fabulous, doing a lot of work in terms of promoting the status of our office here, our extension in general, and above all, she was very successful in maintaining and even increasing the budget of our county office here, so excellent relationship with the county official and the state official as well. One of the aspects that we are just asking in terms of global is that we have a complete renovation of our office here, which is county office. This is something I think put into the record never happened in any other county office or the state before. So we have state-of-the-art information, we have new phones, we have systems, we have new workspaces, and the renovation of almost everything in our building is
Ayman, if I could interrupt you for Ayman.
Sure.
We're having difficulty hearing you. If there's any way, I think if you get closer to the microphone or something.
Is that good? Can you hear me like that?
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay. So with that, I think I will let Monica start talking to us today about his successful partnership with county government and how that can be a set model for other directors for the county. Now it's Monica.
Hey, thank you, Ayman. Can everybody hear me?
Okay, Monica, I'm passing you so you're a presenter now.
Okay, thank you. And will my slides come up?
All you need to, if you see the NACAA Administrative at the top, click on that, and then we should all be able to see it. There you go. Yep, right. We're seeing it.
Okay. Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me all right? All righty. This is the first time I've done a webinar, so it's going to be an interesting experience for me. We're having lovely weather in Arizona. We're at 84 degrees right now, so we're having a good time. Because it's new for me on webinar, this is not how I normally present, is talking to a computer screen. So I like to feed off of people. So if I make a joke, if you want to give me a thumbs up or something, that would be good so I know that you think it was funny. This presentation in a modified form, I did it with our faculty annual conference back in August, and Ayman asked if I'd be willing to do this webinar, so I was more than happy to do that, and hopefully you'll gain some information from it. Okay, so now, Stephen, I forget, how do I change to the next slide?
Click, see the number 1, developing and the arrow or the triangle to the right. There you go. Yep.
Okay. If you've never done a webinar, Stephen is the best person to work with. He gave me a practice session about a week ago, and he's just been extremely helpful. I just have my background on there, and there's a couple reasons why I have it. It's not like I want to show that I have a lot of jobs, but I wanted you to understand that some of the work that I'm talking about wasn't developed in just the 5 years I was a county extension director, that I actually had some previous experience working with the county farm, or with the county supervisors through my work with the county farm bureau, so I'd already developed a relationship, and I'll explain that a little bit later. So this is not something that was just within that 5-year time frame. And then the other thing is, those of you that are faculty, you might want to look at, with my experience with Extension, I started out as a staff person, as a program coordinator senior, and so you need to be nice to your staff members because they may become your supervisor, which is what happened to me. I became the county extension director after becoming faculty, so be nice to those staff. And the reason, I think Ayman already said that I stepped down as a county extension director. I loved what I was doing, but I have a program where I was awarded a pretty extensive grant with school garden food safety, and I wanted to concentrate on that. So that's why I'm back to the area program. And if you're not familiar with Arizona, this is the state of Arizona in Maricopa County. That is the color red. Some of you are from counties that have huge, or from states that have a huge number of counties. In Arizona, we only have 15, so I just wanted to let you know where we were. Maricopa County is where Phoenix is located. And this is a schematic of the county itself. And anything in yellow is agricultural land. And I want to point out that that big, huge lake on the left side of the screen, it says Painted Rock Reservoir. It's really not that big. It's just if the water ever filled up, that's how big a space it would take. But it's definitely not that much water out there. That's a desert area, and it's just those would be the lines where the water would be. So just a little bit of understanding of our county makeup. We have 5 county supervisors. We're the 4th largest county in the U.S. with a population of 3.8 million people within the county. That population is greater than 23 different states. And then we are also, and I know this is going to change, but right now with the 2007 Ag Census, we're 29th in the U.S. in agricultural receipts, and with the 2012 census, I anticipate that's going to drop. But even if we're still in the top 100 out of 3,000 counties, we're a very strong agricultural county. We have 25 cities and towns, and we have portions of 5 Indian reservations. And the key to this county also is we have portions of 8 of the 9 congressional districts in our county and 20 of the 30 legislative districts. So when we're talking about how do we keep extension and college and university, a lot of the work goes to our office because most of those legislators and congressional representatives actually live in our county. And just as an example, our tentative budget for our county was just released, and it's a $2.2 billion budget. So, and 51% is that is public safety, but just so you can see what we're talking about. And then within our office itself, we have 12 faculty, and that includes our county extension director. And you can see the breakdown on what the programs are. And then we have about 60 FTE and staff. We have more bodies than that, but about 60 FTE for staff that help with all our programming. So the first thing I wanted to talk about before I get into the details on working with your county government is what's the difference between education as opposed to lobbying. So lobbying is attempting to influence the passage or defeat of any legislation. And I want to be very clear that faculty or staff cannot indicate to a local, state, or national elected officials that they are representing the university when trying to influence legislation or policy. So as an individual, you're allowed to say, I like this piece of legislation or I don't, but you cannot say that you are a university employee unless you're a registered lobbyist of the university. But as a representative of the university, you're allowed to give balanced information to educate on potential impacts of policy. You can't ask the policymaker to vote for or against a particular rule. You can't ask them to others to contact their policymakers, like you can't do an email out to your master gardeners and say, please contact the county supervisors on this. And you cannot send a letter on university letterhead, email, or your phone or your cell phone, if the cell phone is paid by the university to policymakers, and ask them to veto a bill. For example, a legislator may ask you to give input on proposed legislation, say on integrated pest management in schools. You can cite the research, but you can't say that this bill should or should not be passed. But you also need to indicate that if it was passed and it's not based on solid research, that you should indicate to them that it should be based on solid research. And for an example, when I talk about you can't send a letter on university letterhead, we actually were contacted because somebody was talking to the university that there might have been influence on one of our senators. And I was contacted because there was an indication that I had sent emails to that senator. And it was because when I was a 4-H agent, I was in charge of the ambassadors, and we were going to be going to Washington, D.C., and so had an email to see if we could have a meeting with the senator. So I had to release that letterhead or that email so they could see that I wasn't trying to influence the senator on a piece of legislation.
Monica,
yeah,
is this policy of the University of Arizona or the state, or do you, in your experience or perception, this is pretty much, these rules or policies are pretty much nationwide?
It's a policy of the university, but I would feel pretty comfortable that most universities would be saying the same thing. Unless you're a registered lobbyist, you cannot represent the university.
Okay. If any, also just to interject here, feel free to type any questions you might have as we go along, or you can unmute yourself and ask a question. Monica's happy to take your questions as we go along. Also, if you want to type in or add to the chat, thank you, Rebecca, about the policy in your state. So, like Monica said, I'm sure it is very similar in every other state, but be good to hear from other states as well. Thank you, Monica.
Sure. And then I had another example. We had a change in our county supervisors recently, one that had just been re-elected, had to step down for medical reasons. And so there was one candidate that actually sent me an email and asked me to endorse them for the appointment to that. And I had to say I could not do any endorsements for it. So there's times you might be asked to do that also, and I chose not to do that because it would have been a problem. Okay, so getting into what we do in Maricopa County and our target audience for this presentation is that it is the county supervisors that we primarily work with. And we do, and I'd be interested to see what the state law says for some of the other people, but we are in state law on how we work with our counties, and it's Arizona Revised Statute, which is ARS, and it's Article 3, Dash 121 to 128, but in particular, Dash 124 talks about our Extension Advisory Board members and how they're appointed and their qualifications and that type of thing. So you can see the wording for that, but I'd be interested to see if there's others who have it in state law on how extension works with their county. So our advisory board, and just so you know, when I became county extension director, we did not have an advisory board. Our prior county extension director basically was not following law, and I'm not quite sure why that happened, but he did not have an advisory board. So that was the first thing that I had to implement, and we worked pretty hard with the county supervisors to do those appointments. Met with each of them to see what qualifications they were looking for, knowing that I needed to abide by that we needed 7 and 5 of them had to have an agricultural background. I will say that we did training with the advisory board members once they were appointed, and it's an official appointment. They go through a county board of supervisors meeting, and then they're signing off on paperwork that they know they're representing the county supervisor. But these advisory board members, as far as I'm concerned, were the key to the success of getting the increase in budget. So it's very important to do good quality training. We put together an information pamphlet so they understood what their roles were. On the very first meeting, we had a binder that had all kinds of information in it, and as we had meetings, they added to that any minutes of the meetings, any paperwork that was handed out. We also gave them a U of A badge, so every time they were in the office, they were wearing an official badge, just like one of our staff people. And then when they met with the county supervisors, they all wore that badge. So U of A was in front of everybody all the time. At the advisory board meetings themselves, I just saw a question. Were you able to nominate potential advisory board members? That's from Donna. Yes. When I met with the supervisors, they felt that I would have a better feel for who should represent. So I would nominate them, and then they would have a conversation with that advisory board member before they put it in front of the county board of supervisors meeting. So they would have a conversation. So when we were doing any of our advisory board meetings, I had it that each of the faculty came in and gave a presentation on their program, and in that binder I had a page with the photo of the faculty members so they would remember who was who, and then they were able to make notes on that. So each of the faculty came in and talked about their program, so those advisory board members felt very comfortable with what they were talking about. So this is a picture of some of our advisory board members with some of our county supervisors. And the lady that's all dressed in black, she's one of our advisory board members. Her name is Carol Ward Morris. And she was a perfect example of why you need to have good training for your advisory board members. We have a brand new county supervisor, and we have a Farm City breakfast, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And she was at that meeting, and I went up to him and asked if we could do a picture with she and him. And he said, sure. And he said, I need to learn more about the cooperative extension. And he said, I understand we have some funds that we provide to them, and I just need to understand if that money is well spent and should we reduce the budget. And I'm ready to jump right in, and she just took it and ran with it, and she talked about the value of the program and how it's impacted her personally and what it's done for members, and I just wanted to give her this big hug, but she was very comfortable being able to promote extension to that county training of your advisory board members is very, very important. So one of the things that we do is, and this was something that was implemented back when I was with Maricopa County Farm Bureau, and so it's been going on for, I think we had our 21st Farm City Breakfast this last year. What we do is we work with the County Farm Bureau, and we have a breakfast in each of the county supervisors' districts. And so that breakfast is specifically for them. We work with them on what the topic will be, and if anything of interest, from dust control to theft of wire copper or what extension does to you. So each year it's a different topic. And the County Farm Bureau pays for the breakfast. We do the invitations to it, and we get people that are either in agriculture or they come from a city manager or mayor's office, or they are with a school board or a school board superintendent. And so that's what our city part is, and then the farm is anybody who is in agriculture in that district. We originally started the breakfast that we had at hotels, and then had this really smart brainstorm and said, why don't we have these out on farms? And so we started having them on farms, and have been doing that for about 15 years. So every April we do these Farm City breakfasts, so there's 5 breakfasts. And prior to becoming County Extension Director, I attended every breakfast as a faculty member. And I didn't just go to my district breakfast, I went to all 5 of them. So the county supervisors got to know me just in that way to see who I was. And during the breakfast, everybody has an opportunity to introduce themselves. So the county supervisors got to meet us. And on those breakfasts, we encourage everybody in our office to attend at least the breakfast in their district. We get good turnout with faculty members, not quite as much with staff. They are at 7 o'clock in the morning, though. Some of them might have family obligations that they're not able to. And then the other thing that we do is an annual report that goes to the county supervisors, and I restrict this to 2 pages, and it's because having worked as a lobbyist prior to this and then working with the county supervisors, they don't have a lot of time to read entire books. And some of our counties get paragraphs upon paragraphs and pages, and I don't know how much their supervisors read. I just know ours, managing a $2.2 billion budget, don't have time to read much about extension, so I want to make it as easy as possible. So the front page, I put in the county data, and then the back page, I do data specific to their district, any impacts that we may have had, such as, you know, in District 5, there's 15 4-H clubs with 150 members, or and these kids did that type of thing. And then also I put on the front page what their investment did for the county. So prior to the increase in budget, we had a $230,000 budget from the county. Well, that last year I was County Extension Director. That $230,000 allowed us to have the presence in the county and the good programming in the county to get over $4 million in grant gift contracts. So I'm able to show that we leveraged their investment of $230,000 to that $4 million. And when the county advisory board, they all attend those Farm City breakfasts, so the county supervisors see them then. And then we set up individual meetings. So I work with my staff, so I will attend a meeting with each county supervisor with the advisory board member or members in that district. So there's 2 that get 2 advisory board members. And so we bring this annual report to them and hand it to them and their staff person. And those meetings can last anywhere from a half an hour to 45 minutes, just depending on the time. So because of that 5-year relationship, this is what we did, and Ayman alluded to some of it. Our building was built in 1973, and we have literally had not much done to it since then. When we were talking to the county supervisors the first couple of years that we were there, we would meet with them, and I'd just say, I understand we're in an economic downturn. If you could just keep us at level funding, we really appreciate that. And they kept us at level funding where other county departments were getting cut at like a 15%. At the same time, I was getting cuts from the state, but I did not get any cuts from the county. And then this last year, when I was meeting with the county manager, he said, we've got some extra money. I'd like to give you an increase. I'm talking to the county supervisors about it. And so, excuse me. So when we had the meeting with the county supervisors, every single one of them said, you did not come with your hand out for the last 4 years. Now that we have some funding, we've seen the value of what you did. We want to provide funding. So, okay, so I see, Catherine, that I need to get closer to the microphone. Sorry. I feel like it's actually in my mouth. So, for fiscal year 2013, we had a 52% permanent budget increase. So, it went from $230,000 to $350,000. It was specific that they would like us to work more with our urban agriculture program, so it has funded what we call an assistant in extension position. It's like a junior faculty member. They don't have the tenure responsibilities, but they still have the responsibility of delivering the program as if they were a tenured faculty member. So that position has been developed, and she's done an absolutely wonderful job and has had meetings with the county supervisors to show the value of that investment in this office. And then also, at the same time, the county manager said, we'd like to do some renovations to your office, put together a wish list. So working with faculty and staff, we came up with a wish list. My primary one was to work on a network upgrade. Our IT person likes to say we're working in the 1990s in our technology, and I would agree with it. And so our university has looked into what it would be estimated cost to do a technology upgrade, and they anticipated to be about $200,000. It's the total rewire to the office, different phones, the whole bit. And so I was hoping if we could get that, I would be happy. And so met with the county supervisors, or excuse me, the county manager, and had our IT person there also. And I was so glad she was there. And it's one of those things you really need to value your staff, because the manager said, you know, why should we pay for your technology? Why isn't the university paying for your technology? And she came back and she said, if you were building a brand new building for the county, would you build it without the technology? And he looked at her and he said no. And she said, so why shouldn't we have the technology in a county building? And so that was approved. I didn't know what the budget was going to be until I saw the county budget once it was passed. And so the budget they had for our renovations was $850,000. So and as we're going through the renovations and we're dealing with lots and lots of construction workers right now, but we're very excited about it, so nobody's complaining. But the biggest piece is the network upgrade. We also converted our warehouse to an open office that has 10 workstations, and that's because we've just grown in the number of staff that we have because of our grant funding programs, especially our SNAP Ed program. Because they're making changes to the office, our restrooms need to be modernized to the Americans with Disability Act compliance. So that wasn't something in our wish list, but I'm glad it's being done. And then they've remodeled or are going to remodel our reception master gardener area. We're doing a complete audio-visual upgrade in our huge meeting room. This seats about 125 people. We're going to do keyless entry throughout the building. And then our compound where we put our U of A vehicles, they graded it and graveled it, and they put in a patio area for us so we can have an outside breakout room. And then our boardrooms, our conference rooms, they're going to be putting in boardroom furniture. So it's exciting for us, and it was a huge input for us. So then when, that's all about Maricopa County, how can you be successful in your county? And one of the things that I investigated and I would like to have more information is what I'm going to talk about for the rest of this presentation. But when you think about your county and local government, you need to be thinking about your county supervisors, your managers, and the county manager has just been instrumental in helping us on the budget, and so that's something that I do. Our county advisory board does it with the manager. I meet with the manager. We actually made changes this year with the election. We knew two supervisors were going to step down, so we knew we were going to lose two of our very loyal supporters as supervisors, and so we knew we were going to have to be training, if that's the right word, new supervisors so they understand extension. And one of our really strong supporters ended up having to step down in February because of medical issues, and so had an appointment. So we now have 3 out of the 5 are brand new county managers. So working with the budget situation is an educational piece, but there is value to this investment of $350,000. At the same time, the county manager, who had been the county manager for probably 15 years, he retired, and so we got a new county manager. So that was the first person. The minute he was appointed, I made the appointment to meet with him, and he's been a strong supporter of extension. And then other people that you could be working with are your city and town councils and managers. And so one of the things that I investigated is how can we do a better job? And there's a program out there, and it comes out of Minnesota, and it's called the Public Value Message. And I would really like to explore this within our state and use it more often. And if any of you are familiar with it and use it, I'd be interested in that. I'm going to say right now I'm not an expert in it. It's just the information that I gathered from it to me is something that we should be doing. And so it basically is to get 30 seconds with a policymaker, how do you describe attention? And so these are, this information is from 2 different articles. One is by and I don't want to even try to attempt her last name, but the Minnesota Associate Professor Laura, and it's AALAMBOKIDIS. She's with that first article in the Journal of Extension. And then Nancy Franz from Iowa State has looked into the public value messaging also. And so you can see those links down below and look at them later. But basically in your public value message, you're trying to show that there's accountability for the investment of public funds. And so if I'm training a certain participant and use Master Gardener as an example, there's value to that Master Gardener, but what do the Master Gardeners do for public value? So if you could think of your programming that way, so when you support X program, participants will do what, which leads to what kind of outcome, and then which will benefit other community members. Okay, so Eugene says Laura was one of the presenters and held a short workshop at the 2013 Code Conference last night. That's good to hear. And then Stephen just put the link up for the first article. So, for an example, on my program that I just received grant funding from, I would put, when you support the School Garden Food Safety Program, participants will use the food safety training, which leads to safe food for students, and agricultural concepts used in the language arts, mathematics, and science lessons, which will benefit other community members by having students more engaged in learning, as well as the opportunity for the school cafeteria to use student-raised, safely produced food. So that would be my public value message for School Garden Food Safety. So when you look at those stakeholders that might be able to help you with your public value message, in our case, as I said, our advisory board for the county, but then also each of our faculty have advisory boards for their programs. Also, any community members who might interact with our trained volunteers. So who works with our master gardeners or master consumer advisors, our 4-H agents, and our ag educators. And then who our funders are, and then also we don't want to miss out on that local press. So if stakeholders or people are affected by our program's outcomes or pay for our programs, but who are not program specific. Okay, and then how does an extension program create public value? Does it narrow an information gap? Does it address a crucial concern about fairness? Does one person's participation benefit people who do not participate? Does one person's participation reduce costs? And does that program improve the market? So if you look at it, your program participants, let's use master gardeners. They may show a change in their behavior in specific ways, such as that they may be planting low water use plants, and that might lead to specific outcomes that directly benefit the participants. Or their water bill may be reduced because they're using less water on their landscape. But also those master gardeners are excellent people on the educational side. We have over 500 trained master gardeners in Maricopa County, and they are at all the home and garden shows. And the public value is they're training others to look at low water use plants to use in their landscape. And so that public value is that we may be seeing less water usage in landscaping in homes because they were trained by a master gardener. And so my proposal when I did this for our extension and the conference was I would like to see training on this public value message. There are some, and the Iowa article suggested that the public value message would actually start to be used in performance review. That when faculty were doing their annual performance report, that they would list in there what their public value message. And it's not just that I trained 100 new master gardeners, but these master gardeners gave programming to 1,000 people, and those 1,000 people are doing different things with their landscaping. So that was my proposal, and I'm still working on it to see if we can get some training on the public value message, because I think there's value to it. So that's my presentation. If anybody has any questions or if they have used public value messaging, I would like to know about that. But other than that, that was it. So are there any questions, or I appreciate you taking the time to be on the webinar. Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, will the slides be available? I think Stephen would have to answer that. I don't know if this was recorded or if I could send it out somehow for the slides. That I don't know. And then, do elected officials get your newsletters? It depends on the program. We don't have a county newsletter for the entire office, but certain faculty do newsletters, and I don't know if they send that to elected officials. So I don't know if we lost Stephen about would this be available if it was recorded.
I didn't quite hear what you said, Monica, about the slides.
Hey, Catherine Allen asked if the slides would be available, and I didn't know if this was recorded, that people were able to listen to it, or if there's a way for me to send the slides out to those who are on the presentation. I'm not sure.
If you send them to me, I'll make sure that with your permission, that they're posted at the NACA website.
Okay. I will do that for you. Okay, one of the questions is, do you have difficulty in getting your office personnel to share their information in a coordinated effort? And if so, what have you done to encourage their involvement? Yeah, it's hard to get them to share the information. I think it's more a time problem rather than not wanting to. And but our faculty do an annual performance report every year, and it's peer reviewed, and so I'm able to gather a lot of data that way. And if they have staff, they should be capturing that data in that annual performance report. But what I will do when I put things together is I run it by the faculty member to make sure I capture it correctly. And then, do you do YouTube videos about your program? I have not, so that would be something that would be good to get out there. Okay, Dana Rizzo. Hello, Dana. Dana used to work in our office. She went back home to Pennsylvania. It is helpful to know what the job responsibilities are of the various county municipal officials before meeting them, to be able to approach them with questions requested. Yeah, I completely agree with that. If so, how do you gain that intelligence? The county supervisors have been very helpful to me, being able to say, here's a department head you need to talk to, and even facilitated the meetings with them if we have something in particular. One example is air quality had some funding from a fine they had levied, and they wanted to do air quality education. So they hooked me up with the department head for air quality, and we had a 1 year of funding to help them do an educational program and get into schools for them. And then Donna was wondering if policymakers watch the YouTube videos. I don't know. It would be interesting to know that, but I don't know how you would even capture that. Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Okay.
Doesn't appear so. So, yes. Thank you very much, Monica, for sharing. It was very informative and did indeed enjoy hearing your presentation. Just a couple of last-minute housekeeping things. This video or this webinar has been recorded